everybody. I'll Talk If You Listen, episode 68. How the heck are you? We are almost at another milestone, episode 70, and I was just sitting here thinking, like, I'm only 32 episodes away from 100 episodes, and it's been a long time coming. And it's really easy for anybody to take a look at some of the things that they didn't do or couldn't accomplish. And it's really tough to kind of refocus or reframe and take a look at the things that you did do or you did accomplish. And again, there have been months where I haven't recorded a single episode. One year I only recorded like 4. I couldn't even believe it because it felt like more. And then I went to go look for some reason. I think I was looking at my statistics or something, and it was like only 4 episodes. I basically recorded 1 episode per season. And I'm looking at this now, and I'm almost at episode 100. And who knows, I may never make it, and it's really easy to sit here and go, oh man, I could have been at episode 200 by now if I was on my grind. But I'm proud for all 68 episodes that I dropped, that I put out. I've come a long way from pacing to quality to topics to editing. There's so many different things that I've learned, and I'm really excited to learn even more. This is going to be like potluck of topics today. Just a few things that are on my mind, and I'll try to get through these as quickly as possible so that way you all can get on with your day and hopefully take some of the topics that you've heard here on this show and talk to somebody you know. My ultimate goal for this episode is really to inform you of a few things and just to look inward, look deeply at your own biases and your own preferences, and there could be some things that are unconscious that you may not even be aware of, that you've never really fully thought about because you're not aware of it. And I really want to dive into all of those areas today. So let's catch up first. What did I do? So last weekend, I celebrated my 4th anniversary with my girlfriend, and we didn't do much. We had a somewhat of a staycation. We went into the city for the weekend, and we stayed at a hotel. It was a pretty nice hotel. Not a huge one, super big, but it was nice. And we just hung out. We walked around the city a little bit. We hit up a few restaurants. We bought some board games, some tabletop games, and nothing fantastic, nothing great, but it was cool. I think, and I'm sure I've said this before, the benefit of being a tourist in your own city, or the benefit in not getting out too much, is you get to enjoy even the little things, even walking around Old City or walking around downtown or going to view a normal restaurant that's been around forever, but it's your first time going. You really get to enjoy it, in my opinion, a little bit more than that city savant, right? That person who knows the city like the back of their hand. And I'm really grateful and glad to be in a city like Philadelphia because it's so diverse. It's like New York Junior. It really, really is. And in some ways, I would say it's better than New York. But that's the hometown bias I have. But it's just such a great place. It's so diverse for in regards to people, in regards to food, in regards to art, in regards to music, in regards to museums. There's just so many different things that you can do in the city. And I will say that although I am very hesitant in some areas that the city is opening back up from quarantine, I am also grateful that the city can shine in the areas that it does best. I think Philly, especially from a sports perspective, gets a lot of bad rap. Like, a lot of people think people in Philly are like heathens or we're jerks, and yeah, you got a little bit of that. There's in some cases a lot of bit of that, and that's the case with any major city, though. I mean, if you go to Memphis, if you go to Denver, if you go to Austin, If you go to LA, if you go to Atlanta, you go to any other major city, Nashville, you are going to come across your fair share of jerks. And I think when people only show the bad, that really shapes somebody's perspective. My city is beautiful, and I will die on that hill. I love my city. It has some really ugly parts, but it has some beautiful parts as well. And just like most things, I think it does a good job at both. There are some things that like I just shake my head at, going into the subway and just smelling urine. That's like horrible. But you're going to get that in New York too. You know, so it's a situation where you got to appreciate, you got to take the good with the bad. When you pray for rain, you got to deal with the mud too. And I think that's okay. The problem though is going back to the perspective thing. When you hear all these negative stories about Philadelphia and their fans and a few other things, you get a poor perspective, like the gun violence and all these other things. All the good things kind of get overshadowed, and that's not to take away from the bad things. Like those are bad, yes, they need to be addressed and or dealt with, but the good things are great too. The art in the city, the charity in the city, the historic landmarks and places in the city. There's so much to do. It kind of reminds me of the people who live in suburbia and they don't want their son or daughter going into the city or living in the city. They have this poor perspective of what it's like because of the news. I blame the news, I blame the media. And now more than ever that you have unchecked facts out there by way of social media. The internet is crazy. Anybody can go to I'mRight.com or SupportMyTheory.com or MyPerspectiveIsTheRightOne.com and see only what they believe is the case, and they won't get to see anything else. There are people in suburbia who think North Philly is the worst that Philadelphia has to offer, or West Philly or Southwest Philly is the worst that Philadelphia has to offer. And what they don't realize is North Philly isn't really even North Philly anymore. The city is very much a college town, and a lot of these colleges have purchased and remodeled a lot of the property in some of the trouble areas. They do that for a few reasons. One, it's cheap. It's a money move. They can purchase property value. They can purchase property at a really low value, and then they can jack up the rent or jack up the cost of tuition and have, mommy and daddy pay for it for these students. Or it's a situation where you want the campus to look better. A lot of campuses, schools, Temple especially back in the day, would say, hey, look, don't go past this mark. Stay between here and here. And they've done a relatively good job of trying to reshape the community to make their campus more appealing for visiting families, especially people who aren't from the Philadelphia area at all. So Southwest and West Philly, same way. Drexel and UPenn have purchased a lot of property and really turned the aesthetics of the city around in those particular areas. I hear LaSalle is trying to do the same thing with Germantown, the Germantown section of Philadelphia, and in some parts, Olney and things like that. So you have these people who have this perception that North Philly is a certain way, where I would say only half of that is right now, maybe even less. So that said, there is a lot to say about perspective, and the city is beautiful. The city is beautiful. So I'm really glad we got a chance to hang out and just kind of be around. It actually was a part of the city I've never been to before. We were in a Penn's Landing area. So I've been near Old City, but I've actually never really been above like 3rd Street, I don't think. Like physically, like walking around and taking everything in. I think I've been on a bus ride past that area. And of course, I was on the Market Frankfurt line, which if you're not familiar with Philadelphia, it's basically an underground subway, elevated subway. And it travels along the Old City and Penn's Landing section of the city, but it's underground. So there was a lot that I missed, didn't see, couldn't take in. So it was a good time. And of course, you're getting it. There was a lot of people out, especially on Memorial Day, but you are getting it in a diluted way because you're still kind of sort of dealing with this coronavirus thing. So until that gets fully cleaned up, I probably won't really be able to fully take in certain parts of the city the way I would want to, which in a way is okay. That's fine because the going back to the tourist in your own city remark, the longer it takes for me to fully experience something, the more value I get, in my opinion, every time I go down there. So I'm pretty sure there are going to be some cool stuff in some of the surrounding suburbs. I'm really looking forward to checking out the Keswick area and maybe even the Glenside area, Hatboro area, in Montgomery County. However, nothing beats Philadelphia. And I'm so glad to be a Philadelphian. I really, really am. And I think you can really, depending on what suburb you live in, you can really get an advantage of like being close to the city because it's not a hassle or it doesn't go out of the way to get into the city and take advantage of it. But you don't necessarily have to deal with certain things. So I'm really like, I think up here, the property tax or whatever the type of tax that it is that you get taxed on your paycheck is lower. Out here it's 2% instead of I believe it's 4% in the city. So there are some advantages, but again, nothing beats Philadelphia. I'm really, 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 really happy to have been born here. So with that out the way, there's one last thing actually. So I was really proud of myself, and then something happened outside my control. So I'm not going to beat myself up too much about it. But I was going to actually record, even though last weekend was my anniversary weekend and I wasn't home. I did not bring my laptop or any of my microphones or anything like that. I still wanted to record an episode. I said, you know what? I'm on a roll, 2 episodes in a row for the month of May. Let me close out the month strong. So what I did was I actually have a microphone that I purchased for my phone. It's a really, really good mic. And I brought that with me. That way I could just plug it into my phone, record the episode, edit it as best I can. I was going to let you all know what the situation was just in case you got some poor feedback or the audio quality wasn't as great. And I was going to go ahead and upload it directly from the hotel. And I was going to I felt so accomplished at that idea of being able to do that. I'm like, yo, I'm not going to come up with any excuses. I'm not going to let this situation, because it's really, really easy. You're like, oh, I'm with the lady. It's my anniversary. It's a holiday. I'm not going to put anything out. But I was like, no, screw that. I'm going to do it anyway. So I go to record the episode and I realize I don't have any space on my phone. If I'd have remembered, what I would have did was all the old pictures that are on my phone right now, I would have put them on my computer and I would have freed up several gigs of space and I would have been able to record the episode, put the episode out, and once it was on Spreaker's server, I'd have just deleted it from my phone or maybe stored it somewhere else. But totally didn't think about that and could have did it too. Had time before we left for me to do it, but I totally didn't think about it. Really, really hyped, go to record, and I'm like, oh crap. So now what I could have did was I probably could have put out like a 20-minute episode in retrospect, but in the moment, I guess I didn't think about that because I didn't know when it would have cut off. Like, I don't know how many megabytes or gigs equals X number of minutes. So I could have been mid-thought, and then I could have got a notification on my phone saying out of space or out of memory. And then you play this game of, okay, well, how much of that do I post? How much of that do I publish? So I'm a little bummed that I couldn't do that, especially since that was my intent. However, I'm still proud of myself. I still consider it a small victory that I put myself in a mindset to even do it in the first place. Because like I said, it would have been really, really easy to fall back and be like, nah, I ain't doing it. So I was really happy about that. I was able to make that happen. So I actually put a poll out on my Instagram and many of you participated. Shout out to everybody who follows me on the IG. Even more reason to follow me on social media on what the next show topic should be about. And it was between a few different choices. It was about the CDC guidelines. It was about the NBA NHL playoffs. It was about fronting on social media and about why men and women cheat. And why men and women cheat was a lot of people's choices. There were a few other choices that people selected, but a lot of you want to hear at least my perspective on why men and women cheat. So thank you for everybody who participated. It's a great topic, one of my favorite topics, and I'm going to get into it right on the other side of the break. Welcome back. So before I get into the cheating piece, I want to talk a little bit about NBA playoffs, and it won't take long, especially for those of you who aren't into sports. So don't worry, this won't be like 25 minutes. But I saw something today that I was really, really happy about. And this might seem normal to some people, but it was just fantastic to me. And it just makes me appreciate sports even more. So I don't like basketball. I'm not necessarily a fan of basketball, but I love sports. So if you want to talk about basketball from a basketball perspective, points per game, what players good, things like that, I won't really be interested. However, from a sports standpoint, you want to talk about why defense is the way that it is, why an offense is the way that it is, why rebounds are important, coaching scheme and style, things like that. I'll be tuned in because I love sports from a chess game standpoint. Like I love the thinking and the tit for tat and the back and forth and trying to outcoach and outplay, and it's just great. I love it. So there's that working for me. But when it comes to NBA, NHL, and MLB playoffs, it's just a different environment. Everything is elevated. Everything matters, and kind of a bit more invested. I was talking to my buddy Ryan last night, and he made a really, really good point where I asked, hey, I don't know what it is, but there's something about the NBA, NHL, and MLB playoffs where I'm just tuned in. Now, I'm a hometown team guy. I will only ever root for the Flyers, even though I'm not into hockey. I will root for the Phillies and for the Sixers, even though I'm not into baseball and basketball, respectively. I'm an Eagles fan first. I'm an Eagles fan, and then I'm a football fan. So what that means is I'm invested in the Eagles all year round, through minicamp, through off season, through the draft, and through the regular season and playoffs, if and when they're in the playoffs. Fully invested. It felt really good to watch the Eagles win the Super Bowl, knowing that my friends and family knew how much it meant to me, because being a diehard Eagles fan is something that I've always broadcasted. I never hid it. Even after some embarrassing losses, even after some losses to some rivals, I'd wear my hat proudly. Wear my gloves or scarf or whatever it is proudly. Maybe need me a nice Eagles coat, but there's so many to choose from. The old school retro one, like the Kelly Green one, is dope. But something a little bit more modern is dope. The early 2000s design is also dope. So there's some things to choose from. You know, you can go with the varsity style jacket. It's a little obnoxious, but it's warm and it's, again, dope. Definitely need to get a fleece. I actually started to purchase a fleece, but those things are expensive. They are. They're expensive. But anyway, I bring this up to say that I can watch two no-name football teams with really, really poor records and be just as entertained because I'm a football guy. Basketball, on the other hand, and the other ones, there's so many games. And talking to Ryan last night, he was like, hey, football, there's 17, but 16 games. Each game is an event. Each game matters. You play 4 games, you're 25% of the way through your schedule. You know, in some cases, they can have huge playoff implications. And there's not much room for error. With baseball, I think it's like 162 games. I don't know how many there are for hockey, but I believe there are, I don't want to say over 100. I'm not sure. I don't know how many there are, but well over 16, well over 17. And for basketball, you got 82 games. So you could lose 10 games, and in fact, lose 10 games in a row and still have 72 games left to play. And that can take a little bit of the oomph out of the regular season, the playoffs, the switch is turned on now because every game matters. 4 games could go by and you could be eliminated. Just ask the whatever team that Milwaukee played against. I think it was Memphis, maybe. I'm not sure. No, Memphis is in the Western Conference. I'm not too sure who it was, but 4 games could go by, you're eliminated. You're done. 5 games could go by, you're eliminated. You're done. It's only a 7-game series. Not every game goes to Game 7. So to see that happen it elevates the excitement around it. So because of that, I started watching the Sixers games. Like, again, I'm always going to root for the Sixers, basketball fan or not, because I'm a hometown guy. I may not be as invested as a fan out there, but I want to see the Sixers win. I want to see my hometown be represented in the playoffs, and I want to see us take home a championship. Who wouldn't want to see that for their city? Unless they are, even if you're a fan, I know people who are like Lakers fans or like Kings fans or whatever, but that doesn't mean they don't want the Sixers to do good, So I'm watching some playoff basketball now because of that. And today I watched the first game of the second round. It's the Sixers versus the Hawks. It got really intense towards the end. And since stadiums and arenas, venues are allowed to have spectators now, you see fans getting really, really rowdy. And then they do these shots of the fans every now and again. And just to see the diversity of the fans, like it showed some people in turbans. I've had to take an educated guess. I believe they were Indian, Asian Indian. And that just made me so happy, y'all. Like to see, like, sports really does bring people together. It really, really does. Doesn't matter about your physical ability or disability, your mental ability or disability, your race or culture or ethnic background. It just brings people together. Doesn't even in some cases, doesn't even matter the language. You could be sitting next to someone who doesn't even speak, let alone could speak your language, and get just as excited when you see that soccer play or that baseball play or that football play. And it just makes it super dope to see that. So I think that's one reason why I'm attracted to sports and why I'm attracted to gaming in general, because it brings every color and creed together. If you like games, you like games. So many people who would have never otherwise spoken to each other can sit down and enjoy something. That's why I like music, same deal. And I would even say Masonry, my fraternity, because it brings people together that wouldn't have otherwise met. And I think that's just such a beautiful thing. I think that's just super, super dope. So I'd say this. If you're not into sports and maybe you won't be necessarily invested, don't necessarily burden your hardcore friend who is, if you know you won't enjoy it, because you will take a little bit of the fun away from them because they're really into the game and you're not. I was telling this to my girl that sometimes, as crazy as it sounds, when the Eagles make a bonehead play or something dumb happens or we're losing or it's a bad call, I want you to be mad with me. And then, so when I look over and you're in your phone, it's like, why are you even watching? It's like you don't care as much as I do. So I'm sure not every fan is like that, but I speak for the ones who are like that. If you're a casual fan, if you're not going to be as invested, go to a sports bar. Go to a sports bar, go to a pub. Go to like a venue, like an Xfinity Live if you're in the Philadelphia area, or a casino or something like that, where the game is going to be on, and it's just a different vibe, a different environment. I remember, was it the Sixers? I don't know if it was the Sixers, the Phillies, or the Flyers. I don't remember who it was. But I remember going to Xfinity Live, which is basically like a huge sports bar. And the game was on. I want to say it was the Flyers. And the Flyers won or scored a goal. And for that night, I was a hardcore hockey fan. because having that energy around you, I tell people all the time, if you can't afford to or don't want to go to a Flyers or a Phillies or a Sixers or an Eagles game, go to Xfinity Live. It's like one of the next best feelings. And I remember being there and being able to see everybody and cheer and sing and dance with everybody. It was next level stuff. And it's multiplied indefinitely when you are actually into the sport. I remember going to another sports bar with one of my lodge brothers, actually my line bro, and I can't think of the name of the place right now. It slips in my mind, but we were watching the Eagles game, and every time we scored, high fives around, drinks going around. It's just such a good time, and you can't beat that. So hey, if you're a casual sports fan, or you're at least into having a good time, and you know what the teams are. Hey, you may not know what a touchdown is. You may not know what a bad call is on a ref making a bad call. You may not know what a power play is. You may not know what bases loaded means. Doesn't matter. You can still have fun. You can still bask in the energy that is Philadelphia sports or any town that you're a part of. I would definitely recommend doing that. So I just wanted to get that out there. Moving on. Why men and why women cheat? So this was pretty interesting. So I'm going to give my own personal take on it. And then I found a really cool article. I didn't read the full thing, but it has some dope infographics. So I'm going to key on those infographics, and I'm going to put the link for this article in the description for the show. So if you're listening, go to the description of the show. You can even pause it right now and go and click on that link or copy and paste that link and read it. It's a pretty interesting article. Not too long, but I liked it. It was a study. They surveyed 441 people, got some interesting takes, so I thought it was pretty dope. Before I get my perspective tainted by the article, because again, I didn't read much of it, I am going to tell you what my personal perspective is now. So shout out to my buddy Amanda, because we actually had this discussion very recently, and it was really deep. And parts of what we were saying are relevant to why men and women cheat. So first things first, and I'm sure I had this discussion before. There may have even been a previous episode surrounding it, but for the sake of the topic and assuming that you haven't heard that episode yet, first and foremost, you have to establish what cheating is, what cheating means. That could vary for a lot of different people. Cheating for some people is flirting. Cheating for other people is kissing. Cheating for other people is even hugging or going on a date, and for most people, cheating is you're having sex with somebody. So there are a lot of different versions of cheating, and I try to tell people all the time, infidelity, cheating, it's definitely subjective, because you have some couples, even if you disagree with what I'm about to say, you have some couples who are in an open relationship and they just don't care. As long as certain rules are discussed, hey, go out there, be safe, use protection, don't give oral sex all willy-nilly, just practice common sense or uncommon sense in some cases. And they could go all out. And that's not cheating because the parameters were already set. There are relationships out there that exist like that. And it's really important to take a look at cheating and what it means before you have this discussion. I think a lot of the times people go into the discussion, and a good hard assumption, a good hard line for a lot of people is having sex with somebody else that you're not in a relationship with. You can presume that when you say cheating, most people that you're talking to in monogamous relationships, at least, and even in some poly relationships, would say that, hey, no, I totally agree. Having sex with somebody else is definitely cheating. But you never know. You could be having a discussion with somebody about why people cheat or what cheating is, or somebody cheated is really messed up. Imagine a scenario, or imagine a time where maybe you heard a story where somebody's like, oh, so-and-so cheated on me. What should I do? And then you go straight into maybe how the person feels or what the outcome should be, what the next step should be. Every now and again, though, you ask, oh, well, what happened? And then they tell you, oh, so-and-so was out and they weren't expecting me here. I went here and I saw them holding hands with somebody. Or, hey, I saw something in this person's phone and they were flirting back and forth. Or, hey, I saw so-and-so kiss. And you're kind of like, oh, okay. And you kind of go from there. But it's really important to define what cheating is when you're having a discussion. Because for one person, holding hands is cheating. For another thing, it's not. I mean, you might want to question, like, hey, why are you doing that? But, like, that's not cheating necessarily. So you have two people. So the first thing I want y'all to do while you listen to this conversation is I want you to think to yourself, how would you define cheating? What is cheating to you? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what cheating is to me or what cheating is to your aunt or whatever, because you're the one in your relationship. The second thing I want you to think about is, what is cheating for your partner? But the third and final thing I want you to think about, at least for this little segment, is, have you even had a discussion with your partner for what cheating is? I think a lot of couples go into a relationship, and that's why a lot of people have issues, they bump heads, because with this assumption of what cheating is. We're both on the same page about cheating. You can't do this, you can't do that. Or maybe it's always like the most extreme version. Like, hey, we both think having sex with somebody else is cheating, so we both know what cheating means. Yeah, but you didn't talk about flirting, or you didn't talk about hugging or kissing or dating, or you didn't talk about any of these things. You just kind of presumed. So take a step back, think about it. What is cheating to you? What is cheating to your partner? And what did did y'all even have a discussion? And if so, what did that conversation sound like? So I want you to think about all of that. The next thing that I want to talk about in regards to cheating is, it's really important that we take a look at why certain things bother us. Because there are a lot of things that I think are just on principle. People are really proud, people have ego, and they don't want to seem less than by having someone go out and do something because you have perception. Oh, if you go out and do this thing, that means I think this or I feel that. Example, if you go out and kiss another guy, that means that you don't like kissing me. So therefore, you going out and doing that takes away from what I can do. I would sit back and think and ask yourself, why do you feel that way? Why do you think that's the case? And where can you validate that? So a lot of these thoughts and feelings need to be validated, right? You have to ask yourself, where's the evidence to support this? It's really, really important you do that, because I think there are a lot of different things. I think there are three main reasons people cheat. First reason, let's just call it for what it is, to get the easiest one out of the way, is greed. People just want stuff. They want more. They're, want more than they're getting. So they go out somewhere else and get it. I think another area that people cheat is confusion. We talked about that a little bit too. Some people cheat unintentionally, or they don't have a malicious intent behind what they're doing. Hey, I'm going to the theaters with my friend, a female friend of mine. She gets cold, and every time we go and watch the movies, she kind of like leans on me a little bit so we're warm, or we sit in one of those seats that let you sit next to each other, and she warm, or I give her my hoodie or something like that. And now you didn't have that sort of discussion with your girlfriend, and now she thinks you cheated on her. Or someone saw, girl, I saw so-and-so here and they did this, and you cheated, or you did something you shouldn't have did. A lot of that, I think, has to do with confusion or miscommunication. Now, I know some of you, and if you have this thought, I really encourage you to be open-minded about this discussion. If you don't, you're being narrow-minded and you don't want to listen, that's your right, and that's okay. It's your right to disagree. It makes for good discussion. But I want you to think about something. Think about something really, really simple. Let's take cheating and infidelity out of it. Let's take making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or making a sandwich. People make their sandwiches a certain way. Not everybody makes their sandwiches the same. So if you ask your partner, hey, you want me to make you a sandwich? And they say, yeah, make me a sandwich. And you do cheese, all of the meat in the middle, another thing of cheese, and then you put the bread. You don't put any mayo or mustard on it. You put a pickle on the side, and you say, "Hey, here you go." It has to take for the person to go, "Hey, the sandwich was good," or "Hey, the sandwich was bad. Here's how I make mine," or "Hey, can you put mayo on it?" Like, there's a discussion, and I know this may seem really, really simple. Some of you might even find it funny, but I find the best way to explain stuff is with food because it's like a universal thing. So, but think about that. You went into it going, "Do you want a sandwich?" And in your mind, that question answered so many other questions that weren't even discussed. That question answered, "Do you want condiments on it?" That question answered, "How do you want, what meat you want?" That question answered, "How many slices of cheese you want?" That question answered all of that in your mind. Do you want a sandwich? That's it. And it takes for something to happen, some sort of confrontation to go, "Hey, I didn't like it. I want you to do it this way." Or, "Hey, can you cut it? Can you cut it diagonal?" Or, everybody know diagonal cuts make the sandwich taste better. This is science. Can't refute that. So, "Hey, do you want to cut it diagonally? Do you want the crust cut off?" All these different things, right? Like that come with something as simple as making a sandwich. So if something as simple as making a sandwich can involve all these extra questions and all this opportunity for communication, what makes you think that a relationship, and especially cheating, doesn't deserve that same right? If you're going out and getting somebody food and you're asking questions like, "What do you want? How many do you want? What size do you want? Do you want anything extra? Do you want dessert?" You're asking all these questions. Why does it stop when it comes to cheating? This is discussion, and who knows? Maybe your assumption was right. You sit down with your partner and you go, "Hey, what's cheating for you? How do you feel about ABC?" "Oh, me too. Great. Done deal. 5-minute conversation. Wonderful. Good for you. At least you can say you had it." A lot of people are in relationships right now. They've never had this discussion or anything remotely close to the discussion, and they just presume that the other person knows what cheating means to them, and they just presume what cheating means to the other person. It's just like, it's crazy to me. Um, Maybe not so crazy because I can understand why no one wants to have that conversation. One, it's kind of built into society, like, "Hey, cheating means this. So because of that, we don't need to have that discussion because cheating means this." And we both understand that based on society's rules. So we don't need to have the discussion when we get in a relationship. Another part of it is just poor communication skills in general. Most couples have them. Most couples are working on them. Most couples, I mean, ideally, you'll never perfect it because you're always changing and learning as a person. But as we live in a world and a society with different views, different tastes, different perspectives, for us to not have that discussion with the person that we're in a relationship with, I think is a huge disservice to yourself and to the relationship. It's really, really important. Really, really important. It can kind of help snuff certain things out too. Like, take flirting, for example. Flirting might be something that like somebody just does because they enjoy doing it, but they don't need to do it, right? You got two types of discussions surrounding that. You have the, "Hey, what's cheating to you?" "Oh, flirting is cheating." "Oh, I love flirting. Like, flirting is fun, but because you don't like it, I don't need to do it that badly. Like, I enjoy doing it, but it's no big deal. I'll just cut that out of my diet, my social diet. Like, it's fine." But then you have some people like, "Look, I don't see what the big deal is. Like, flirting is a type of conversation for me. It adds flavor to the conversation. It gives me joy. I like doing it. And if you are too insecure to say I can't flirt, then we need to have a discussion about our relationship," or yada yada yada. That's really important because that conversation can give the person who is flirting insight. Like, you know what? I can avoid hurting my partner's feelings by stopping doing something that really doesn't matter that much to me. Like, I don't have to flirt. It's not a big deal. But it also lets the flirter know, "Hey, I'm in a relationship with a person who's insecure about this. We need to explore this. Why is this person insecure about this? Where does this insecurity come from? What's happened in the past? What does flirting mean to you?" Um, so again, a recap. The first one is we have what did I say? I don't even remember what I said. The second reason is miscommunication. What was the first reason? I can't remember. I said there's 3 reasons why people cheat. I can't remember the first thing I said. But the third thing, which I think is like one of the most important reasons that happens, is insecurity. Oh, greed. Greed was number one. So greed was number one. Miscommunication is number two. But I think insecurity is probably the big dog. Like that's the one that causes a lot. Like insecurity causes a lot of people to cheat. I think they feel like, hey, because this person is doing this, that means they feel this way about me. So I got to go and do this. They look at it like, you're not wanting to spend time with me, so I need to find somebody who does want to spend time with me. You're at work all the time, or you never want to go to the movies with me, or you never want to have sex, or you never want to kiss, or you never want to go to my parents or whatever. There's so many different things that people feel like you don't want to do these things, so I got to go and get it from somewhere else. Now, I talked in the past, and I don't want to repeat the topic. I talked in the past about how every other area of our lives, we understand that not one thing can really fulfill and satisfy that need, so we get those from other things. For example, we can't talk about everything to the person we're in a relationship with. That's why we have friends. We don't always want to eat the same type of food. That's why we have a diverse diet. We don't always want to go to the same places to watch movies or have fun or whatever. That's why we travel, right? People want change. We want variety. We want options. Why do we feel like our partner needs to fulfill every other need? But I talked about that topic before, and I'm more than happy to talk about it again if you guys want to hear like a different take or a newer take or recent take of it. But in general, I think that has a lot to do with these social norms that we kind of put into place. Hey, if you're a monogamous relationship, you need to get all of your fulfillment from this person. You can't go to friends, you can't go to strangers, you can't go anywhere else. You got to get all of this from this person. And I think that's so, honestly, to be blunt, I think it's dumb. I really do. But anyway, there's the insecurity piece when it comes to cheating, and a lot of it happens. It happens more often than not. I had a good friend of mine, a high school buddy, Samir, who was on a previous episode. I think it was episode 26. Episode title is "People in Open Relationships Are Happier Than You." And he made a comment. I'm going to paraphrase. I'm going to butcher what he said. But he basically said, if I keep doing something and I keep messing up, at what point do I take a look at the system and not myself, right? It's really easy to go like, oh, what's wrong with me? Why do I keep cheating? Or why do I feel like I got to do it? Well, maybe a monogamous relationship isn't for you, and that's okay. Society, religion, politics, these three things, especially your family, I would include that in your family. If those four things make you feel like something's wrong with you if you're not in a monogamous relationship. And that can have a huge impact on people's psyche when it comes to certain things. And that can have a huge impact on cheating. How many people don't cheat just because they know society deems it as wrong? Like they'll say it's wrong. Oh, cheating is wrong. That's why I don't do it. And how much of that has more to do with their idea of cheating and society's definition of cheating and standard for cheating than it does with the person that they're actually with? Now, I think a better, more appropriate answer is, hey, I don't want to cheat because I don't want to hurt my partner's feelings. That's a better answer, because now you're making the reason behind not cheating about your partner and not about society, about people that you're never going to meet, about this idea. You're basically conforming to an idea that is universally accepted by the majority of people. But you're not in a relationship with the majority of people. You're in a relationship with your partner. So I definitely wanted to talk about that. Just re-examine some of these norms, these societal norms, and re-examine what your definitions are and why you feel the way that you feel. I think some people feel like, one last point I'll make about monogamy, and then I'm going to get to this article. I think a lot of people look at it as, if you go out and do this thing with this other person, then that means I'm not that good at it. It's a emotional thought. It's specifically designed to be an irrational thought because it's based in emotion. And whenever you have that thought, you need to find the evidence to support it, like I mentioned earlier. Example, you don't enjoy the type of movies your partner likes to watch. So your partner goes out and watches movies with the people who do want to go and do that. Now, the emotional, irrational part of your brain is going, you don't want to spend time with me, or you enjoy time with them more. I'm not good enough at, so you're going there. You just need to find the evidence to support that and go, well, did my partner say I wasn't good enough? Did my partner tell somebody else that I wasn't good enough? Or am I just assuming that because this is what they did? X doesn't always mean Y. And I think a lot of the times we do that to ourselves and we really screw ourselves up. Oh, every Friday you do karaoke and you always go with your friend Jane. You and Jane go out, you do karaoke. Why don't you invite me? Well, you don't want me to go, so that means you don't want to hang out with me, or you think Jane is better than me, or you're cheating. It makes you feel insecure. And it could be, the thing is, some of that could be true, but you need to find the evidence to prove that it's true. You need to have this discussion. You can't really just think of that. And I think when it comes to monogamous relationships, a lot of people feel that way. Like, hey, you're going out and doing this thing because I'm not as good at it, or I'm not that good at it. And I think one thing that people really need to realize is the more experience your partner has, whether that be sexually, whether that be socially, whether that be professionally, whether that be financially, spiritually, mentally, whatever experience, however much more experience your partner has, if they're a good partner and you guys are in a growing relationship, that means they can take everything that they know and learn and add value to you. It doesn't take away. The more experience they get doesn't take away from the relationship. It adds to it. You can't add more furniture to the room that you're already in without leaving the room. Think about it when it comes to school. When you want to educate yourself on more topic or more knowledge, you go to different schools, you go to different classes, you talk to different teachers, you get more experience. That adds value to who you are as a person. So the relationship can only ever be as good as how much experience both parties come into the relationship with, if they aren't going outside of the relationship for other things. Whether that be something as drastic or dramatic as sex, or whether it be something as simple as a leadership seminar, or meeting with a nutritionist or a financial advisor. If the person didn't know how to do that before they got into a relationship with you, and you don't know how to do that, you're stuck. You're going to be stuck at level 5. You're never going to get to 6. You're going to be stuck. And you might find different variations on how to do certain things, but for the most part, if you've only ever had a savings account and your partner has only ever had a savings account, the only thing y'all going to know how to do when it comes to saving money is opening a savings account and put money in the savings account. You're not going to know about investing. You're not going to know about CDs. You're not going to know about any of these things because you're not learning about it and you didn't come into the relationship with it. But I want everybody listening right now to recall a time where you came into the relationship and you knew how to do something, or you did something a certain way, and your partner didn't know how to do it, and you taught them how to do it, and now you leveled them up by sharing your knowledge, right? Oh, I went to college. I had to apply for grants and loans. You never went to college before. I can show you how to do that. Not only can I show you how to do that, I can show you what this interest rates means, and, delaying, stopping your payments and pausing your payments and all these other stuff, and what debt means and all that. I can kind of give you my experience there because I have it and you don't. The other person may have been investing in stocks since they were younger, or at least before they met you, and you've never done that. So they bring that value to the relationship. I really want us to re-examine these norms and think about certain things when you go out and now it's a difference when you don't have a desire to. I get that. So let's take something as drastic and dramatic as sex, right? This is a really hard line for a lot of people. You take sex, you go, you know what? I kind of had my thought days. I had my hoe days. I went out hoeing. I really don't have a desire to go and do that anymore. I'm not really sexually attracted to anyone else other than my partner. So that's that. But if you and your partner have a conversation about something like, hey, if you go out with the girls in Vegas and you see a hot girl or a hot guy and you want to have fun, hey, that's a part of your vacation. Go and have fun. Who knows? You might learn something really, really cool and bring back to the relationship. Hopefully, that cool thing isn't an STD. But you might go out and learn something and bring it back to the relationship, and now you're even better in the bedroom. So there are certain things that people are going to hear and go, "Oh my God!" and they shut down. They didn't want to entertain it. But I think those who want to grow and those who want to challenge what they deem as normal, why they think they're doing what they're doing is normal, you want to challenge that. You want to think about that. I think it's really important to have these discussions because sometimes it challenges your conviction, and it sometimes reaffirms your stance. You can go, hey, what, I did that, or hey, let me talk about it. You know what, I don't think I'll like that, so it is what it is. At least you had the thought of even going down that path. Hey, I don't like seafood. I know I don't like seafood. I've never had squid. Now, I don't want to try squid. I don't think I'll enjoy squid. But I at least have the discussion to, hey, how do I really know that I don't like squid by not eating it? Or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. How much of it is just mental? So these are discussions that we really need to have. And I encourage everybody to have them. And I hope I'm making sense. I really do. I know for some people this is too extreme and they're like, Tim has lost his mind. He's off his rocker. But those who know. Those who know. So I feel like I rambled on for a bit there and I didn't even get to the article yet. I'm going to take a small break. I'm going to regroup. I'm going to clear my throat with some tea. And we can get into the article on the other side of this break. Hey, y'all, I'm back. So this article, it's a really cool article. Here, let me just adjust the mic here so I can get a good angle on the article and also read without turning away from the mic. But this is a really cool poll that I found. I found it by, here, let me tell you what I typed into Google. I typed in infidelity survey. Infidelity survey. And the first option was a link that says admitting to cheating, and it's on healthtestingcenters.com. Healthtestingcenters.com. So if you put that into Google, it should be the first link. If you're using Bing, I don't know what to tell you. Shout out to Bing. No hate, no shade, but I'm just saying they have a different search algorithms. If you use Bing, you know what I'm talking about. But the title of the article, again, is called Admitting to Cheating, Exploring How Honest People Are About Their Infidelity. Now, again, I didn't read this article in its entirety, and I just want to stick to some of the big key areas for the purposes of this podcast and the topic. But it basically focuses around people who cheat and people who are honest about cheating. So I thought this was a really cool article. So it goes, I'm going to read some statistics. Now, they surveyed 441 people. So this is a small sample size, a really small sample size. But this is what they found. Cheating by the numbers. So the question in general was, have you ever cheated in a relationship? Over half the people said no. 53.9%, basically 54% of the people said no, we haven't. 22.1% people say yes, but I never admitted it to my partner. And 24% says yes, and I have admitted it to my partner. The percentage of admitting their past infidelity to a new partner is 76%. So almost 3/4 of the people who have cheated in a previous relationship have told their new partner about it. 24% of the people say, hey, that's none of your business. Why would I even tell you about it? The next point, how long people wait before telling their partner they cheated. And this was a cool statistic for me. For them to even think about doing this is dope. But how long people wait before telling their partner they cheated? 47.7% people say within a week. They tell their people within a week, like, yo, I cheated. It is what it is. This is what happened. Let's have this discussion. 26.6% of the people said within a month, and 6 months or longer, 25.7% of the people said that's how long they waited. So about even between within a month and 6 months or longer. Now, it breaks this down even more thoroughly, which I think is super dope. I'm not going to go into too much of this, but basically, by gender, more women tell their partner that they cheated within the first week than men, but not by much. It's actually relatively close. Women are 48.0%, so 48%, and men were 46.9%. So what that means is 46.9% of the men who were surveyed said that they told their partner within the first week. 48% of the women who were surveyed said the same thing. They also break this down by like what people consider cheating, which I thought was super dope. Again, shout out to this article for being so in depth with this survey. So they have two different sides here. They have one that says the percentage of people who committed this type of infidelity, and then on the other side is the percentage of the people who actually admitted to it once they did it. So 73%, 73.5% of the people who committed infidelity by kissing somebody, 73% of that 73.5%, that's for my math majors out there. I don't even know how you admitted to doing it. So that means, let's put it into fractions here because that's a little bit easier for me. 3/4 of the people that they surveyed said that they kissed somebody as a form of infidelity. 3/4 of that 3/4, whatever that is, said that they actually admitted it to the person. Now, I'm not going to go over the numbers, like each number, but here are all the categories they said. Kissing, sex, oral sex, going on a date, flirting on social media, spending money on the person, going on trips with the person, flirting on dating apps, having a webcam meetup, pregnancy, getting an STD. Now, the cool thing about the 441 people that they surveyed, 4.3% of the people actually got an STD as a result of infidelity, which I think that's dope. And over half of the people, you'd hope it would be higher, but it's a whole lot easier for somebody like me who's never done that to say that, right? But the amount of mental and emotional pain and turmoil that you have to go through in admitting that to your partner is next level. You have 53% of the people who, if they did get an STD, they told their partner. So just above half. Now let's talk dirty deeds. That's the next thing here. There's a percentage of who wore protection when they cheated. Ooh, that's really good. Percentage of who wore protection when they cheated. Wow. So 40.4% of men did not wear protection when they cheated, while almost 60% at 59.6% of men did wear protection when they cheated. 41.8% of women did not. Wow, not by much, but only more women. More women said no. I guess that kind of makes sense because if the guy isn't using protection, I mean, and the woman chooses not to, I mean, it's more likely, in my experience, for a guy to have protection on than a woman. I hear there's like female condoms. I've never seen. I don't know what that looks like. In my head, I always imagine it to be like an inverse of a condom, like it just goes in or whatever. But I don't. I know that's a really ignorant statement to make. I have no idea what it is, but the thought of that is hilarious. 41.8% of the women did not wear protection if they committed an act of infidelity, while 58.2% of women have worn protection. Here's another stat for you. 36% of people in a relationship did not wear protection, while 64% did. 60%, this is wild, y'all. 60% of people who were married did not wear protection, while 40% did. Wow. So basically, according to this survey, again, really small sample size, people who cheat while they are married are more likely to not wear protection. How about that? And this is the last one. Like I said, the article goes on. It's pretty deep and comprehensive, but I thought this was cool and I wanted to kind of point this out. So here are some outcomes of admitting to cheating. We tried to stay together, but broke up eventually. That's 30% of people. Now, I was actually kind of expecting that percentage to be higher, but that kind of makes sense. I mean, it's really difficult because the trust is gone. Once the trust is gone, and nobody ever wants to talk about the person who cheated, it's tough for them too. Now, I know if you're a victim of cheating or you got cheated on, you probably don't want to hear that. But hey, while I got your ear, I'm gonna tell you, it's hard for both parties. So let's go with the obvious first. The person who got cheated on, right? They feel insecure. They don't feel like they're good enough. They can't trust the partner that they're with. There's health concerns now because what were you out there doing with who? And now you're paranoid. You know, every time this person leaves, you don't know what they're doing, where they're going. Every time you leave them alone, you don't know what they're doing, where they're going. If the person cheated in your house, now you gotta worry about that. Like, who did you have around the kids? If you have kids, who knows the layout of our apartment or our house, our neighborhood, certain habits? Do they know alarm codes? All these different things. Um, it's really difficult, but I think that's obvious. But let's talk about the person who did the cheating. It's difficult for them too, because especially if it was I don't want to say honest, but it was a mistake. They know it was a mistake, and they're trying to recover. They're still dealing with the potential of you or their partner hanging that over their head for the rest of the relationship, even after they clean up things up. No, I'm just going to work for the 15th time. I'm just going to work. Or hey, I'm only going to the gym. You can turn your schedule, my location on your phone if you want to prove that I'm only going to the gym. I'm going here. No, I was not flirting or looking at anybody in the gym. And then there's certain things like, hey, if you cheated on the person at the gym, like if you cheated on your partner with somebody at the gym, now can you not go to the gym anymore? You know, so it's difficult for the person who cheated too. So I thought it'd be higher, but 30% sounds like I guess reasonable. Again, 30% of the people was like, nah, yeah, we stayed together, but we gotta break this off. 15.6% of the people, we are still together now. So they got over it. That's incredibly low, which is completely reasonable in my opinion, because I think once you get rid of trust and if there's no accurate communication, that relationship goes down the drain. And 54.5% of the people say, nah, we broke up immediately. Like that was like done. But it breaks a lot of this stuff down and it's like really, really cool. I'm sorry, I gotta talk about this one. Reasons for admitting to cheating. Because we were just talking about this. I'm going to go through each one of these because this is probably the most interesting piece of this survey to me. Reasons for admitting to cheating. Guilt is number one at 47%. So 47% were just guilty. They was like, hey, look, I can't do that. That's eating at my conscience. 39.8% of the people said I wasn't happy and needed to let them know. Hey, well, there you go. I thought they had the right to know. It's 38.6%. That makes sense. They knew I was cheating or caught me cheating, 23.7%. That's kind of between a rock and a hard place at that time. I thought they might find out through someone else, 23.3%. Hey, I'd rather you hear it from me than somebody else. I was afraid they'd catch me, 16.9% of the people said that. We were getting more serious in the relationship, 12.3% of the people said that. That's deep. You know, I always thought about that. If you cheat on somebody with another person, there's a level of insecurity there because who's to say that that won't happen again? That's how they got you. So I have some very, and just for the sake of respecting people's privacy, I have some very intimate knowledge on like certain scenarios where that was the case, where somebody cheated on somebody, started a relationship with the person that they cheated with, but then they end up cheating on that person. And then the person, partner B, let's say the second person. So the partner A was the one that got cheated on. They broke up, right? And they broke up for partner B. So now partner B is like, okay, good, I'm cool, I'm great. Well, partner B got cheated on. And it's like, you didn't see that coming? But the rounded out is I thought I might have an STD and they would find out or need to know. That's 11%. I would hope that that percentage would be higher, but it makes sense that that's lower because not too many people were found getting an STD when they cheated. So that makes sense. But yeah, like this is such a good article. There's much more in here too, so I encourage you all to go and check that out. Much more to take a look at. So I'm going to put that in the description of the show for you to read that article. Really, really cool. Nice read. Very insightful. Again, small sample size at 441 people. But I think that those are some interesting numbers nonetheless. So, with that said, y'all, that's pretty much it. Not much else going on that you guys don't already know about. I really wish I could go into detail about work, but I'm not. But hit me up and I'll tell you. And not really much progress on the ATD, my certification that I'm going after. But I did take a self-assessment and I learned a little bit more about some areas that I'm weak in, and I'm going to start to try to work on those areas. One thing that I did do, y'all, is I got a whiteboard from my office, and it's right near my door. I'm actually looking at it right now. And I wrote some stuff on there to kind of just keep me on track because the way work is and the way my life is, especially with the lodge, there's always so much going on. And it feels good to cross things off of a list. But honestly, it has a lot to do with just keeping track of stuff. Because when you get pulled in so many different directions, it's easy to forget what you were doing previously. So putting that on the board helps me stay on track. But I also put some positive quotes on there. And I will say this about work, about the positive quotes. One of the quotes I put on here is, "You are a great leader." And I do have evidence to support that. My challenge is, though, and this isn't me blaming anybody because it's not anybody's fault. If you lived in Europe and you were the best basketball player in Europe, and then you moved over to Brazil, you're still going to have to prove yourself again. You got to reprove. You should never feel like, well, I did all this stuff. I shouldn't have to prove to you how good I am. I can't take every single last person that I touched, every single last person that I promoted, every single last person who heard a great quote from me, every single last person that I led successfully, bring them to my current job and convince, like, hey, Tim's a good leader. Tim's a good leader. He helped me believe in myself. He helped me achieve new heights and new goals. It's on me to convince the people that I currently work with that that's the case. So I'm starting to take a turn and as far as my attitude is concerned about work. One of the quotes that I put down on my board is, "Be the change that you want to see." And I put an exclamation point at the end. And that is just so important. Be the change that you want to see. In order to change the game, you got to play the game. And I really need to embody that quote. So I'm really glad that I wrote it down. You hear this so many times, like writing stuff down. Oh, you got to write it down. You got to write it down. Speak it into existence. And it really does do something to you. It's one of those things where you got to do it in order to prove that it's effective. Because when you hear other people say it, it sounds so corny. It sounds so corny. It's like, yo, get this B-movie quote out my face, dog. Like, speak it into existence. Get out of here. But you start doing it. I started taking daily, or somewhat daily. I sometimes I skip a day, but I try to do daily reaffirmation breaks, and I'll go to Twitter and I'll post some positive things, and just typing it out, saying it, writing it on my whiteboard, just talking about it, believing in it that's how it starts. That's how it starts. So I encourage you all to do the same thing. You can't finish the race if you don't know where the finish line is. First things first, there has to be a finish line. And then you got to know where it is. So I think one thing that I'm glad about, and Masonry actually taught me this, I'm still young. There's still room to mess up, and there's still room to grow. Arguably, messing up and making mistakes, taking the wrong approach, is more educational than being successful. So that's where I'm at. But take it easy, y'all. Thanks for being patient with me. And keep an eye on the social media for more updates, more positivity, and more polls. I'm going to get you guys' opinion on what the topic should be. I really like that approach. And even if I only get like one or two things, at least I know there's two people who want to listen. So follow me on social media. Follow me on social media. Follow me on social media. Well, enjoy the rest of your day, your night, your evening, your afternoon, your morning. And I'll talk to you all next week. As always, I'll keep talking if you'll listen. Take care.